In my hands I hold a bouquet of roses freshly cut this morning. The dew drops still cling to the elegant pink petals with their reddish tone. In the calm before opening I move between the flowers, carefully arranging each stem. A small wind chime sways, letting in fresh air. "Mom, we're running out of water lilies," comes softly from behind me. My 8-year-old daughter always helps me in the shop on her days off. It is Saturday. Sebastian, my husband, left early for work, but his expression was more severe than usual. He didn't come home until late again last night. "Thank you, Lucía. Mom, will we stop later?" I say, caressing her head gently. Lucía nods in silence and returns to the flowers. She no longer smiles when she is near her father. She only lowers her head. The tension shows on her face. Carmen, my mother-in-law, appears from the back of the shop. At 65 she lives with us. "The deliveries are ready," she says kindly, but her eyes hide something dark. "We live in a luxurious suburb of Boston. On the surface we lack nothing." Sebastian earns well over 6 figures a year as an executive at a major investment bank. Some weekends we spend at our vacation home in Cape Cod. But lately the atmosphere at home has grown heavy. "Do you think you will go to church tomorrow?" Carmen asks. The Sunday service at the Episcopal Church used to be part of our family routine, but Sebastian's words echo in my mind. "We'll see how I feel," I reply with some evasion. Lucía leans on my shoulder. Sunlight filters into the shop, illuminating the flowers with its glow, but shadows have fallen over our hearts. My husband has begun to explode over insignificant things and has become strangely obsessed with every movement of the family. He stays out later and later. When he returns, he speaks to no one. "Those men have come back." Carmen's voice trembles. Men in black suits walk past the shop. We had seen him yesterday and the day before. I place myself protectively in front of my daughter. Lucia's small hands grip my clothes tightly. Inside our flower shop, the air is filled with floral fragrances. We hold our breath, waiting for those shadows to disappear. My little flower shop along the Charles River has a good reputation in the area. We specialize in arrangements for churches and funeral homes, as well as flowers for weddings. It is not a huge business, but we have built a loyal clientele. Yet lately those peaceful days have been threatened. "Mom," Lucía looks at me with worried eyes. "I'm scared of Dad." Her words squeeze my heart. And truly, my husband has changed. There is no trace of the kind man he once was. Although his job at the investment bank should be going well, his eyes seem tormented by something he cannot calm. Carmen has suffered watching her son's transformation. She fears him too. Sometimes she finds him desperately searching the safe late at night. The suspicious phone calls have become more frequent. Every day I drive my daughter to her expensive private school. On the way I try hard to maintain a perfect image in this neighborhood of wealthy, status-conscious families. Rumors spread like wildfire, so I cling to the facade of normalcy. Shopping at Whole Foods, meetings with friends, PTA gatherings. On the surface nothing has changed, but inside our hearts are crumbling little by little. The wind chime sounds again. This time it is a regular customer. I force a smile and hand him a bouquet. The scent of the flowers and the warmth of my daughter are the only things keeping my heart standing. That night the sound of the phone shatters the silence. I stiffen. Lately the late night calls bring no good news. I had fallen asleep on the sofa waiting for my husband to return. With my heart in my throat I lift the receiver. "Mrs. Elena Vargas," the voice on the other end is firm. "This is Detective Johnson from the Boston Police Department. I regret to inform you that your husband has been in a single-vehicle car accident on Charles Street." My hand holding the phone begins to tremble. They are transporting him to Massachusetts General Hospital. His condition is critical. The rest of the words become blurred and distant. In my mind I see the severe expression on my husband's face when he left home this morning. "We will give you more details at the hospital. Please come as soon as possible." I rush upstairs, careful not to make noise on the hallway carpet. I open Lucia's door cautiously. In the dim light my daughter is already awake, as if she had sensed something. She sits on her bed, hugging her knees. "They took Dad to the hospital, Lucía. Let's go together." She nods in silence and gets up quickly. There is an unnatural calm in her movements, as if she had been expecting this moment. Downstairs Carmen waits with concern. She must have woken from the noise. She wears a thin robe and her face is pale. "Mom, please watch the house." "Yes, be careful." Her voice is soft but firm. "Elena, no matter what, stay strong." There is something more in her tone, a hidden meaning I cannot decipher. Her eyes reflect a determination I have never seen before. The car moves through the deserted streets of the early morning. The flashes of streetlights illuminate the windows as we pass. Lucía in the passenger seat remains silent. I notice her anxiously watching the rearview mirror every time we stop at traffic lights. The emergency room at Massachusetts General Hospital is chaos. Doctors and nurses in white coats run back and forth. Sirens wail in the distance. We follow a nurse down hallways filled with the strong smell of disinfectant. "Are you the Vargas family?" A young doctor approaches us. Though he looks exhausted, there is tension in his expression. He is currently unconscious and in critical condition. He suffered a severe head injury and may have internal injuries. We are preparing for emergency surgery. As I listen to the doctor's explanation, I squeeze my daughter's hand tightly. I feel the tips of her fingers trembling slightly. We wait in the long hallway under the cold artificial fluorescent light. Lucía never lets go of my hand. Her skin feels unusually cold. On the wall, a red lamp glows, silently indicating the surgery is in progress. The clock hands move with exasperating slowness. Throughout this time, Lucía does not try to release my hand, as if afraid to separate from me. Before dawn, the surgery finally ends. We manage to save his life, but he has not yet regained consciousness, the doctor informs us. There were multiple fractures and internal injuries, but fortunately nothing fatal. We will keep him in the ICU for observation. As I listen to the doctor's explanation, I feel Lucia's grip on my hand grow stronger. In that moment, I notice something strange in my daughter's expression. It is not relief. It is something else. In the ICU room, the only sound is the constant beeping of the life support equipment. The green line on the monitor moves rhythmically, a silent witness to my husband's life. He lies in the bed surrounded by tubes and cables. His normally intimidating expression has disappeared completely. Now he only looks like he is sleeping pale. The bandages on his head and the medical equipment attached to his body make clear how serious the accident was. Suddenly, Lucia's body begins to tremble. I look at her in surprise. Large tears overflow from her eyes. With a trembling voice, she leans close and whispers in my ear, "Mom, we have to run. Once Dad wakes up, it will be too late." A chill runs down my spine. In my daughter's eyes, I see a fear I have never witnessed before, as if something she had been holding back for a long time had suddenly exploded. Those are not the eyes of a child. In him there is a heavy truth, one that cannot be expressed in words. I cannot hide my surprise. Suddenly the scene in front of me seems different. My husband's accident, the silence in the hospital room, and above all the abnormal fear in my daughter's eyes all point to something more, something I still do not understand. Outside the window, dawn begins to color the sky with golden and pink tones. I start to speak, but at that instant footsteps are heard at the nurse's station. Lucía clings to me quickly as if trying to hide. Her small body continues trembling. It is an instinctive gesture, almost as if she is used to doing it. Visiting hours are over. The nurse's soft voice brings me back to reality. "Thank you. We are leaving now." As we leave the room, I take one last look at my husband surrounded by cables and life support equipment. He seems like another person. When did the gentle husband I once knew become someone so terrifying? My daughter's words keep echoing in my mind. "Mom, we have to run. Once Dad wakes up, it will be too late." The weight of those words sinks slowly into my heart. Our footsteps echo in the quiet ICU hallway. Lucia's hand remains tightly clasped in mine. The hospital waiting room is cold and silent, wrapped in the morning mist. Under the dim light, the plastic chairs lined in sterile rows seem even lonelier. A slight smell of disinfectant lingers in the air. Hours have passed since the accident. My body screams for rest, but my mind is trapped in a strange tension, as if something does not quite fit. Lucía curls up beside me. Even as dawn begins to illuminate the city, her trembling does not fully stop. Wrapped in a thin blanket, she looks like a wounded little bird. We decide to wait here until Carmen arrives. "Lucía, can you tell me?" I ask softly. Perhaps now she can talk about the changes of these last months. My daughter lifts her face slightly. Her gaze scans the area with caution, as if checking that no one else can hear. That gesture is not that of an 8-year-old girl. It is an instinctive, learned vigilance. The waiting room is still empty at this hour. The hospital is still wrapped in an unsettling silence. "Dad," her voice trembles slightly, "was afraid we would run away." My heart beats hard at those words. In my daughter's eyes, I see something I had never noticed before. It is not only fear, it is determination. "He watched us every day," she whispers. "He said if we told anyone about the money, the whole family would disappear." My breathing stops. Lucia's confession hits like a heavy blow to the chest. It is as if the darkness that had been contained for so long had suddenly burst out. What had she seen? The sleepless nights, her father's strange behavior, the suspicious calls in the early morning. Dad's computer was always full of strange things, codes, numbers. Her voice drops to a whisper. But little by little I began to understand their meaning. Too much for a girl of only 8 years old. What kind of burden has she been carrying all this time? My heart feels crushed by the weight of her secret. Just then the door of the waiting room opens and Carmen enters. Her face is pale with the expression of someone who has made an irreversible decision. She carries an old leather bag in her hands. Elena, I need to tell you something too. Her voice sounds heavy as if every word costs her effort. Carmen says she noticed the changes in her son about 6 months ago. His desperate searches in the safe room late at night, the increasingly frequent phone calls, his behavior as if someone was following him. At first she thought it was work stress. Her voice trembles, but then something happened. She stops, taking a deep breath before continuing. A month ago I woke up in the middle of the night and froze when I heard my son's screams from his study. Carmen opens the old leather bag and takes out a photograph. I took it in secret. She hands it to me with trembling hands. In the image, documents are scattered across her son's desk, a computer screen illuminated with endless rows of numbers. Something in Carmen's expression makes my skin crawl. He told me not to tell anyone if I valued my life. From that night everything changed. Security cameras in the house increased. Family outings became strictly controlled. All bank accounts came under his control. Carmen had witnessed firsthand her son's descent into darkness. The numbers on the computer, I understood him too, she whispers. They were amounts of assets taken and people who disappeared. My blood runs cold. But Carmen is not finished. That's not all, says Lucía in a low voice. Her tone carries the fear of someone who has kept a secret too big for too long. Mom, I saw something. My daughter's words pierce my chest. With a broken voice she begins to tell me about that night. A night when her father's work associates came to the house. Lucía heard men arguing in the study, the sound of things breaking. Fearful, she peeked, hidden in the darkness of the hallway. She saw everything. They have been silenced, my daughter murmurs. Then she heard her father's voice. The evidence, another man's voice replied, everything has been handled. The shadows on the wall formed sinister figures. It was in that moment when Lucía heard the words that have haunted her ever since. We do not forgive witnesses. It was the cold voice of her father, as if he were a completely different person. After that Lucía's voice trembles. I saw something on Dad's computer screen. An image appeared. It was a photo of an elderly couple. Next to it in red letters the word, handled, and below a series of huge numbers. Those people disappeared. They were in the news. Carmen holds her breath. A chill runs down my spine. In my mind scattered memories begin to connect like pieces of a puzzle. My husband's behavior began to change after that big investment deal. Elderly couples who promised huge gains and then disappeared without a trace. Small newspaper articles about missing persons cases. And now this photo. Carmen takes out another image with trembling hands. In the photograph several elderly couples are smiling at the camera. All of them people who had recently disappeared. Carmen takes my hand. Elena, we can no longer stay silent. We cannot keep pretending this is not happening. At that moment footsteps echo in the hallway. Lucía stiffens. Carmen quickly hides the photos in her bag. A nurse approaches. You have visitors. They say they want to see you outside the waiting room. A man in a black suit waits. He says he is a work associate of my husband. His gaze shines with coldness. The tall man's shadow lengthens sinisterly in the hallway under the hospital's dim light. Madam, I am very sorry for what happened. Your husband and I are close colleagues. His voice is polite but empty. I feel Lucía gripping my clothes tightly. The color drains from Carmen's face. The man continues with a cold smile. Actually, there are some important company documents I would like to discuss with you. Everything becomes clear in an instant. My husband's abnormal behavior, the investment fraud, the missing people. We had just discovered a truth we should never have known. My husband was not just a con man. He was involved in something much darker. I swallow hard. I'm sorry, I respond with a firm voice, but at this moment I only want to be with my family. For an instant the man fixes me with an icy stare but finally smiles coldly and turns away. As he leaves I have the horrible feeling that there is something sinister in his back. In the waiting room no one says a word for a long time. The morning light begins to filter through the hospital windows. And then I decide, I cannot continue exposing Lucía and Carmen to danger. I have thought over and over about all the possibilities, but there is only one conclusion. I look at Carmen and my daughter. Lucía, Carmen, we are leaving. We will live together. The moment I say those words I feel something heavy inside me lighten, even if only a little. A faint expression of relief appears on their faces, but I know this is only the beginning. My husband's organization was powerful and one false step could be irreversible. After leaving the hospital our first stop was a small law office on the other side of the Charles River. We walked down an alley passing old worn storefronts until we reached an old brick building that seemed to hide in the shadow of the skyscrapers. The lawyer I had spoken with on the phone to explain the situation was already waiting for us. "You have been through a lot," she said quietly. "First, let's ensure your safety." In the reception room decorated in an old-fashioned style, we began to explain everything in detail. The photos Carmen had collected, the conversations. Lucía remembered the multiple suspicious incidents. Lucía spoke with a trembling voice at times, but her memory was precise and her composure surprising for an 8-year-old girl. The lawyer listened attentively, her expression growing more serious. "This is clearly a serious case," she said, closing the folder firmly. "There is enough evidence to prove the investment fraud." Then she paused, as if choosing her words carefully. "There is also the possibility of more serious crimes. The disappearances should be under police investigation. In fact, there is already movement," she added with an enigmatic tone. We spent more than 2 hours planning our next steps. First, obtaining new identity documents, considering applying for the Witness Protection Program, opening bank accounts outside Sebastian's control. Lucia's transfer to another school also had to be handled carefully. "I know a principal at a small private school in a quiet town. She will understand the situation." But then I remembered something even more worrying. The money. All the income. Carmen, who had been silent, lifted her gaze and spoke in a low voice. "It's okay." She reached into her bag and took out a bankbook. "I have my retirement savings in a separate account. My son doesn't know about this." Her hands trembled slightly as she extended the bankbook. "This should be enough for a while." At that moment the lawyer's cell phone rang. She answered and her expression changed instantly. The air in the room tensed. "The Crawfords are going to testify." Carmen and I exchanged glances. The Crawfords were one of the elderly couples believed to have disappeared. They were the first major investors of my husband. We thought they had been eliminated. "They were placed under police protection 2 weeks ago," the lawyer continued. "Apparently they were held in a facility in the mountains of Montana. Now they are ready to testify about your husband's involvement." The atmosphere in the room tensed immediately. Only the hum of an old fan broke the silence. "But that means," Carmen's voice trembled, "my son's associates." The lawyer nodded seriously. "Things are going to change. Their testimony will accelerate the investigation. Most likely the FBI will get involved. But at the same time the danger will increase." Lucía had been right. The appearance of the Crawfords was a double-edged sword. As the investigation advanced, my husband's organization would also react. It would do whatever necessary to prevent more witnesses from emerging. It was a race against time. We must hurry with the preparations. That same afternoon we decided to separate to cover more ground. Carmen would go to the bank to transfer funds and open new accounts. I would look for a safe place for us to stay and contact a real estate agent. Lucía would discuss her school transfer with a trusted teacher. We looked at each other before parting. "Be careful," we said to one another. Moving around the city separately was dangerous, but we had no choice. That night my cell phone rang. It was the hospital. "Mom, your husband's condition has stabilized. It is possible he may regain consciousness tomorrow." My hand holding the phone began to tremble. We had no time. We had to finish all the preparations before he woke up. Driving through the city at night, I tried to organize my thoughts. In a matter of hours, terrifying truths had been revealed one after another. The lawyer's investigation had uncovered an unimaginable horror. The victims were more than 100 people who had lost all their retirement savings. Elderly people whose pensions were taken with false investment promises. Then came the threats, the forced confinement, and the elimination of evidence. Just thinking about it made me shudder. There were still people missing. When I returned to the hospital, the visiting hours were about to end. And then I saw them. Those men in black suits were in the hallway again. When they saw me, they smiled with an unsettling coldness. My heart beat hard. As I walked toward the intensive care unit, I saw my husband for the last time surrounded by tubes. His condition was stable and they said he would soon regain consciousness. The sleeping face of the man I once loved now seemed like a stranger. "Let's go," said Lucía from behind. When I turned, my daughter looked at me with firm eyes. That fearful expression was gone and her eyes now shone with determination for a new future. I nodded. We would not return. When we left the hospital, the full moon shone in the sky. In the car heading to the hotel where Carmen waited, Lucía showed a sleeping and peaceful face for the first time in a long time. The moonlight through the car window softly illuminated her cheek. With the dawn of the next day we began a new life. A new flower shop in a small coastal town. There we would recover our quiet days. A life surrounded by the sound of the waves and the fragrance of flowers. I gripped the steering wheel with determination. Under the moonlight the car continued north. Behind us was our past, and ahead, though uncertain, stretched a future full of hope. A year has passed since then. My new flower shop is on a small street in Kennebunkport. It is a modest store with white walls and a blue door. The name, Lucia's Flowers, was my daughter's idea. In the morning mist I water the potted plants in front of the shop. The sound of the waves mixes with the sea breeze. Mom, I'm ready, Lucia calls from inside the shop. My daughter, who is now 9, has fully regained her sparkle. She has made many friends at her new school. On weekends she invites her friends to bake cookies together. Every time I see her smile I am convinced we made the right decision. Elena, the deliveries for today are ready. Carmen appears with bouquets in her hands. She too is having peaceful days. She participates in local volunteer activities and is active in the church reading group. Sometimes she gets lost in thoughts about her son, but that happens less frequently. Our new life is gradually taking shape. The shop is very loved by the community and popular among tourists. Our flowers add color to Main Street surrounded by antique shops. However, the past has not completely disappeared. Sometimes the topic appears in television news with headlines that read, "Major investment fraud case, new developments." As the full scale of the case came to light, it exceeded imagination. The victims were more than 100, with total damages reaching tens of millions of dollars. Elderly people who lost their retirement funds, families robbed of their dreams, and those who never returned. My husband, well now ex-husband, was arrested shortly after regaining consciousness. The FBI investigation led to his indictment as the mastermind of the investment fraud and suspect in multiple related crimes. In the trial, witnesses appeared one after another, beginning with the Crawfords. The survivors came forward, and Carmen and I testified bravely in addition to presenting written testimony. Lucia was exempted from testifying because she had already begun a new life in a safe place. The sentence was 25 years in prison. He will spend most of his life behind bars. Other members of the organization were also arrested one after another. The men in black suits appeared in the news handcuffed. Every time I saw them I felt a chill run down my spine. Their evil hands had almost reached us. The newspapers and television reported this case as the investment fraud of the century, targeting the elderly. But that was only the tip of the iceberg. Behind it hid a much more horrible story of threats, coercion, and evidence elimination. But now a new morning begins. The children pass by the shop on their way to school. Lucia also walks to school, chatting cheerfully with her new friends. "We have plans to go to the beach together this weekend," she says, smiling. Carmen has begun volunteering at a local center for seniors. She also quietly participates in support activities for victims of investment fraud. Her kindness is slowly healing wounded hearts. I participate in activities with the Association of Families of Victims. In our monthly meetings we talk with people who have gone through similar experiences. Some have already overcome the grief and begun new lives. "Mom, look," says Lucia, pointing to a flower blooming in front of the shop. A pure white lily shines under the morning sun. "How beautiful." I smile. The flowers change with the seasons, but their beauty remains constant. We too will live new seasons in the same way. "Mom, I am happy today too," says Lucia, hugging me. Her words warm my heart. Certainly we lost important things, but we have managed to protect even more valuable things. Our family bonds and a future full of hope. At that moment the wind chime sounds in the shop. A new day is about to begin. Thank you for listening to today's story. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. See you in the next story.